Hey, Dad, pull up a chair, have a seat. This is going to take a minute to get through. I had a chance to digest what was said and need to clear the air with an in-depth response. If you don't mind, I believe this will be a complete summary of events that have led up to this point in our lives. You may not even bother to go through it, and that's okay. It's just something that I need to get straightened out. So here we go. The things you said and the accusations made, I found to be quite shocking and delusional. More importantly, I couldn't wrap my head around the fact that you have been harboring this deep-seated resentment towards me for decades without me knowing it or you mentioning it. Like over a mysterious credit card and a couple of money orders, all of which are based on your paranoid imagination. And I think, of course, it all really stems from the $10K, which did in the end up being used for my legal expenses, if that means anything. I mean, it was $10,000 that was supposed to go towards the house, and it was just a horrible situation. And I was in handcuffs, and I couldn't do anything to help the situation. Like you'd think I was on the phone with you. I was not on the phone with anybody. I wasn't allowed to do anything while being under arrest. They don't just let you start answering phone calls. So a lot of this has been really conjured up in your head, but the bottom line is the 10 grand went towards legal expenses. You gave me 10 grand. It was spent that way. I don't know why you just can't get over it. It was something you gave me. So if I spent it over here or over there, what difference does it make? You gave it to me. That's what you did. It's just like you're still seething over it. It's amazing how money has just ruled your life. But let's continue. You never gave me a $2,000 credit card or a $1,000 credit card or a $500 credit card. You never gave me any of that. I've never gotten a gift card of anything from you or a credit card. It's never happened. It's not what you ever did. It's not how you ever were. There was no money coming from you ever. And we all understood that. We got our $50 for our birthdays, and that was it. That was it. That was all we were expected to get, and nothing in between. So I don't know where this comes from. You don't just hand out thousands of dollars in gifts. It's frustrating. But anyway, this is what you believe. It's a story that you created in your head. Just like the stories that Grandpa used to create in his head when he got up there in age, and apparently it's happening to you too. And I do not mean that in a sarcastic way. I mean it literally. Like, this is what's happening. You are creating stories in your head that you believe. So nothing I could do to change that. And this is what you've been harboring against me all these years. You talk about not living in the past, and yet here you are living in the past, holding a grudge against me over some fucking fairy tale in your head. I mean, that's what you're doing. You're living in the past and just holding a grudge against me over this and a couple of money orders. Do you see how fucking ridiculous this sounds? You're accusing me of being a thief, a scam artist, a lowlife, and a liar. This is what you're accusing me of, over crimes that you have created in your head. So since you had the opportunity to tell me what I am and what you think of me, let me tell you some facts about you that are actually true. And I'm pretty sure you have done a really good job of erasing these facts from your mind, and you will deny them, but that doesn't matter because you've been doing that your whole life. So you have been playing the victim role your whole life. Do you realize that? You're always accusing someone of doing you dirty, trying to rob you, trying to take your money. It's always about the money. You have a gripe with everyone in your family. Do you realize that? Everyone did you wrong, Dad. It's like you're not happy unless you have someone to accuse. Your brother did you wrong. My mother did you wrong. I did you wrong. Your own father did you wrong. Everybody did you dirty. But while you are accusing me of these horrible things, let's look at your life and your actions that define your moral character. There was nobody who was a bigger gamer than you, Dad. You were the slick hustler all your life. Yet you have such contempt for anyone who has a lie. Anyone who lies, you have such judgment towards. And this is what you've been. You've been a hustler your whole life. And you freely admit it. You're always bragging about how you beat the system and how you did this and did that. Always. Let's start with how you hustled my mother out of every dollar in her bank account when you left her. You came back, you convinced her that you wanted to work it out, get back together, sweet talked her into withdrawing the money, told you had to do something with it, the car, something that was special for her, and you took the money, you disappeared, and you laughed while your kids were in diapers. You wiped out her bank account so you could move on with your life. Let's move on to the child support you never paid. You were paying $60 a month for 2 kids. That came out to $2 a day to support your 2 kids. She took you to court, and the judge ordered you to pay $120 a month, which came out to $4 a day for 2 kids and $10,000 back pay. And you left town, left your job, left your pensions. She left her pension. You left your friends, left your family, pulled Eugene out of his school, and left your entire life over $120 to feed your kids. You are what society calls a deadbeat dad. That's what society calls it. A deadbeat who ditched his kids. And you want to judge me. So what do you think happens to kids statistically that are raised in broken homes without a father? They end up on drugs and in jail. And you judge me. I'm a statistic and you judge me. We never had a father. And frankly, we were much better off without you. Thank God. Because when I think about how you raised Eugene, I consider myself lucky that you left. You and Jane were child abusers. You were a deadbeat dad and a child abuser at the same time. What an accomplishment. You never had a problem making sure Joe Grisafi paid his child support, though. You made damn sure he sent his check, or he was going to have the wrath of your wife. So you've been a hypocrite your whole life, judging people for the things that you do. She used to beat him so hard that the school counselor would see the bruises and ask him if things were all right at home. She was a lunatic on him, and you loved it. You would laugh at the beatings he was getting. She was the physical abuser, and you were the psychological abuser. The kid had it real bad. And this is while he's in his development stages of life, the most impactful stages that stay with you the rest of your life. You named him Stoolie, shit. You called him a piece of shit every day. That was his name, shit. You called him a loser and a piece of shit every day. That was your parenting. Never a word of encouragement. You ruined the kid, and yet he still managed to make it in life despite the abuse. And you could care the fuck less. You could care less. You freely admit that you're a terrible parent, but you don't care, and you never did. You have no empathy. Lisa, she was fat and told she wasn't allowed to eat in front of crowds at backyard barbecues. You love to put us all on spectacle in front of the guests. Love to make us look like fools in front of people. Yet you were so affectionate with everyone else's kids. You were so charming and funny and charismatic with everyone else. It was all a game, Dad. It was a game. You're calling me a gamer. You're calling me a gamer. You're the master gamer, Dad. Lisa will never speak to you again. She tells people her father passed in 2018. Yeah, my dad passed. He died in 2018. Lisa ended up battling a hard self-image that turned into bulimia for years that could have killed her. She overcame it, but she never has been able to be comfortable with her own weight to this day. You told me you love Lisa and will always love her, and yet you managed to destroy that relationship, claiming she made your wife's life miserable. Do you have any clue how insane that sounds? Nobody made your wife's life miserable but herself. She made all of our lives miserable. We did nothing to her. Nothing. We were born. That was our crime. We breathed the air in her house, and that was enough to be hated. Please tell me what we did to her, what she did to her, what any of us did to her. What did we do? The only thing that was done to her was a 13-year-old kid who talked back to her, and that was it. She was hated for the rest of her life. A 13-year-old kid talked back, and that was the crime. And we made her life miserable. God. But yet another slick move that you pulled in your gaming life was when you forced her to deal with your kids living with you. And then you just bounced to California, leaving her to deal with all of us by herself. She wanted nothing to do with us, and you moved us into the house and then left for her to raise us. And you wonder why it turned into a confrontation with Lisa. The woman was sick from the day she was born, and she hates the world. She holds a grudge for a lifetime over the slightest infraction. She's sick in the head. She's an absolute nutjob of a human being, unlike any I've ever seen. She is the true evil stepmother. Nothing nice, all fake, just like you. The fact is, you're hollow inside. You're empty, soulless. There is nothing redeemable. You freely admit it. And in a way, it's actually admirable because you can cause so much damage and be devoid of any guilt, regret, or empathy. You have zero concerns. You could look back on your life and just say, hey, I had a good life. I had a great life, and not give a shit about the damage you've caused, the harm you've caused, the pain you've caused to your own kids. You could care the fuck less. It wasn't necessary. And to this day, you're still doing it for no reason. That is what sociopaths are. They have no conscience. You're a narcissistic sociopath. That's what a psychologist would label you as. A narcissistic sociopath. Hey, it is what it is. And like I said, I understood it, I accepted it, and I moved on. But you resent me for a couple of money orders and a fucking credit card thing. You resent your own father because he failed to give you access to his bank account before he died on his last breath so you could clear it out before Maria got her hands on it. And you resent him for that. How do you walk around with all this fucking hate and resentment when you've done so much damage? How do you do it? Like, you're pissed off at the world, and yet nobody did anything to you. Let's talk about the really big crime you committed that will go down as one of the most savage plots in your illustrious career of gaming the system. Calls me a gamer. You literally called me a gamer the other night. This is what you are. I'm nothing like you. No, I'm not. So let's talk about how you and Jane pulled off the heist of Eugene's estate, shall we? And I gotta say, this was your masterpiece. The backstory is, when you hooked up with Jane, her father was against the idea of her being a single mother hooked up with a married man with 2 kids. So, like typical Jane fashion, she disowned her father and left the house, never to speak to him again. Never again. She refused to even let her son see his grandparents. This witch, years and years later, Eugene developed a close relationship with his grandparents. And his grandfather made it clear that everything was to go to Eugene. He also made it real clear that his disowned daughter was to get nothing. So much so that he actually sat down with Eugene and Joe, his father, to make sure that his one wish was held. Make sure she doesn't get anything. It all goes to him. And so as it went, the old man died, leaving the grandmother to see things through. And that's when John and Jane devised a plot to visit Tina Trimboli and rekindle the lost years. So Jane shows up out of the blue, and poor Tina is too old and too weak to hold any grudges and welcomes her daughter back into her life. And little by little, Jane is digging into the will of the estate and comes to find out that Eugene is the sole beneficiary and executor to the will, the sole possessor of the estate when Grandma passes. Jane is furious and demands a change of the will, but there is nothing she could do about it, unless she can convince Tina to change the will. Tall order considering her dead husband's wishes, plus Eugene wouldn't accept such a thing, or would he? Well, Jane just kept pressing, and they were doing the tag team on her, telling her Jane was the rightful heir and Eugene would be the one who gets it when she passes. Not this case when Jane cut them off for 40 years. Tina had no chance against these 2 professional manipulators, so the foot in the door was getting her to agree to split the estate half and half with Jane and Eugene. Now, the matter of getting Eugene to agree with this, so she calls her son and demands him to come to make a trip so they can go down and change the will. And so he shows up, and Dad was waiting on Tina hand and foot, charming her in her ear, talking about how greedy Eugene was being for not wanting to split the estate. And then finally she turned on her grandson and called him greedy. And Dad's laughing and pointing at Eugene, letting him know that it was just a matter of time before the whole thing was his. Half was never going to be good enough. He wanted it all. And at this point, I know what was going on. I told Eugene to stay on top of it because they're trying to steal the whole thing. And of course, he succumbed to the subconscious abuse of being the loser you programmed in him, and he gave up without a fight. He just gave up. So the next order of business was to have Grandma medically unfit to make any decisions. And now her loving daughter was the new power of attorney on her behalf. Jackpot score. First thing Jane does to exercise that authority is to go down and change the will, puts the entire thing in her name, cuts Eugene out completely, which I still find suspicious how she was able to do that without Eugene's signature, but such a criminal act. Shortly thereafter, of course, they accomplished their mission. Grandma was admitted into a home where she died in that home, and John and Jane took over the house with a nice pot of gold on top of the cash sale they just got from their California home, and they were suddenly very well off. So, when I confronted my father of the crime he just committed and how despicable it was, he gamed me with a nice convincing story of how the 3 kids were all going to get $100K each and that nobody was going to get screwed over. He said you get $100K each, and that's how to make sure everyone is taken care of, nobody's getting robbed. It wasn't my estate that got robbed, but he knew I was onto him, so he came up with a nice story to shut me up and play nice until the dust settled. And I fell for it. I told Eugene, we're going to get $100K each in the spring. This was in August at that time, so I shut up, believing my father, and when the spring came around, I told Dad I wanted to purchase a house and asked him about the money, and he laughed and said, John, nobody's getting any money. I wasn't thinking straight when I said that. I have too many bills. There's nothing left. You got me, Dad. You got me good. So I knew I was had, and I asked for at least $10K to help me put down on an investment property. And I pressed him for it and pressed him for it, and finally he said yes, to my shock. And because I was arrested and in cuffs when he called and we were closing on the house, he resents me for not stopping him from sending it, as much as I would have loved to have changed the outcome of that event. It was unfortunate. But maybe, Dad, maybe you forgot that I paid you $8K for your salvaged vet with a smashed rear end. I had to pay $1,200 to have it shipped to me and another $4K to fix the body just so I could try and break even selling it so I could take it off of your hands, help you out. My $8K paid for you in cash, but you want to say I scammed you on a credit card. I tried to overdraft a credit card. I bought you an electric gate opener so you wouldn't have to get out of your truck every time to open the gate. It wouldn't fit, but I tried. I tried to give you something nice. I bought your wife a surround sound system with a subwoofer so you can watch movies with surround sound. None of that rings a bell, I bet, huh? But your $50 money order, I said never came, and then it said it came and laughed, which means I was gaming you. So after all these despicable acts of betrayal, I still let it all go. And I forgave you. I moved on. I held no grudges. I understood that Lisa was done with you, and I decided to try and maintain some kind of connection or relationship and called you from time to time wondering if he would ever want to get together. I found it strange that he never invited me over to do anything. Never just wanted to get together. I had no idea about the grudge. I even figured Jane was cooled off by now. I mean, I never did anything to her. I never had any words with her. I got arrested. That was my big crime, and she hates me for it to this day. That's what she hates me for. I never had any confrontation with her. Like, I didn't pay my debt to society. I did. I made my mistakes, and I paid my price. But not good enough for John and Jane. It's a lifetime sentence with you two. Two people who find fault with everyone. I actually thought you would have been happy to have some kind of a semblance of a relationship with one of your kids that was still willing to talk to you. You must think I'm trying to game you for your estate or your will. That's what you think. Something that you would be doing. I don't want, nor did I ever expect anything from you. You've never did anything for me. You made it clear when you said Jane wants it all donated to science. Years ago you said that. So I never expected anything from you. I never expected your estate, your will, or anything. She said it's all going to science. But you probably think that's what I'm after by staying in touch with you. You're wrong. I'm not after anything. I knew I wasn't getting anything, but I could tell you're paranoia and you think I'm trying to get something out of you. This is how you walk around life, but you don't live in the past. Always playing the victim role. Well, Dad, I just laid out the truth about you being the victim, and it's quite a different picture. This picture is the truth, and you can't deny this. All the proof is there. It's available for backup, unlike the credit card story. These are my last words to a sorry old man. A sad story for those who are your legacy. Not for you, though. We know you had a good life, a great life, and that's great. In the process of that great life, you caused a lot of pain and a lot of damage to your kids. Right up until the very end, you continued to inflict more damage. You sat there and called me a lowlife you have no respect for and want nothing to do with while I'm trying to get together for lunch. I'm not holding a grudge after all you did to me, and you're holding one against me for what I never did to you that you claim I did. Isn't that twisted? I mean, I will say those few years we had, those trips to California during those Thanksgiving holidays were very good. I enjoyed those. I know Lisa did too. Everyone did. My trips out to California when I was a teenager, they were pretty good. I had good memories with those. I guess the backyard parties at Lisa's house were nice. Those were pretty good. So there is a couple of memories in there, trying to find something good out of this. There was potential, but you just always managed to just destroy it. Like, it was always about you protecting your money, and nobody wants your money. You just think we do. You think we want your money. I mean, I was a kid. I was born. I mean, I can't raise myself. If I'm in diapers, I can't raise myself. So yeah, I needed to be fed and clothed. And apparently you just didn't think that was necessary. Like, my mother would handle it on her own. You didn't have to deal with that. And that's pretty sad. So if you made it this far, congratulations. I really do not expect you to make it this far. If not, I will make sure to present this at your funeral so we can have a proper eulogy. So I'm going to hold on to this. And you will no longer hear from me. I hold no ill will towards you for my own peace. I just see you as a drunk who spends his days in a bar with no family, no visitors, nothing. No calls, just like he wants it. And he gets it. Cool Hand Luke.
But why do you bother having pictures of us all over your house and on the walls? Why do you do that? Like, that's bizarre. Like, you have pictures of us in your house on your walls where, like, every day you walk by, you see us and you want nothing to do with us. It's bizarre. It's like, just take the pictures down. Like, pretend we don't exist, unless it's just part of a front. So when you have guests over, it looks like you actually have family. Do they ever ask you, how come nobody ever visits you? Or is your family coming over? Is your kids coming over? Christmas, Thanksgiving, anytime? Do they ever say, like, where's your family? What do you say when they do? What's your story? Actually, don't answer that, because we're done. There's nothing left to say. Yeah, take the pictures down. I think it would be appropriate to just take the pictures down. I would appreciate it. So that's it, Dad. I said my piece. I'm done. You won't be hearing from me ever again. I will be telling people that my dad passed away, like Lisa does. And that's it. My dad passed away. It happened, like, this is when we all get to this point in life. Here we are. I'm talking to a dead man. But at least I'm able to have closure and walk away with nothing left on the table. So that's what this was for. This was just to walk away with nothing left on the table and just move on. You will go to the grave, you'll look back on your life, and you'll say you had a great life. And you did. You had a great life. And you gave a shit about nobody but yourself. And to me, that's just not a great life. When I go to the grave, I want to look back on my life and say, I gave something. I didn't just take. I didn't just serve me. But hey, we're nothing like each other. I'm glad I could walk away from this without any resentment, without any ill will. That's the most important thing, because if I had, then I'm walking around like you, resenting and poison and angry and hating people. I don't want that. I don't want that. I want to be free from that. So I set you free. I hold no ill will. You're a human being. You just are a bad one or a rotten one. I don't know, however you want to classify it, but it has nothing to do with me. That's your problem, and I don't hold anything against you now. Yeah, that's it. Take care. You are officially passed, gone. My dad is passed.